For more on the state of crypto, let's bring in Douglas Boneparth. He is the president of Fide Wealth. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Douglas, your thoughts on Kardashian and other celebrities that are being fined or could be fined. Is this helpful, and what do you think the next stage, or where could this investigation lead?
I think it's low-hanging fruit in terms of being a step in the right direction. We get to make examples out of people who are obviously massive public figures. You can't think of someone more influential in social media and just globally than someone like Kim Kardashian. So it's pretty clear that, hey, we're going to make an example here and see if we can't set the tone, at least on the influencer side and the people that are pushing, whether it comes with knowledge or lack thereof knowledge, crypto.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's my understanding that she just said, fine, I'll pay the fine, I just want this to end. So let's look at the concerns about retail investor, social media accounts, and crypto investments. The word is NFL players. The National Football League has stars who are or will be touting crypto, including Tom Brady, who is not having a great year for a variety of reasons. Where do you think this will go? Do you think this is really going to focus perhaps more light on what could go wrong?
I think it's, scratching the surface of ultimately what needs to be, more thought out regulation. You just heard a second ago how new everything is, that lawmakers and regulators are still figuring this out. I think that's a pretty good take in terms of, how far we have to go from where we are today to get something that resembles closer to the way that we treat other securities, whether that's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and things like that. So it's, again, surface level because we're focusing on, influencers and social media here. It ultimately is going to go to an institutional level, to financial advisors like myself who are looking to allocate to client portfolios, things along those lines.
Let's take a look at what crypto's done this year. I know Bitcoin took an absolute beating in August and September, but it's starting off October in a pretty healthy fashion. I mean, I think Owen really nailed it when he said these things can lead to, very high returns, but also just they burn in a spectacular fashion.
Yeah, I mean, the risk to reward, theory here is held in check for sure. You're dealing with something that certainly is speculatory from a price point of view. But if you're talking about Bitcoin specifically, you're at a 60% drawdown this year, thereabouts. As someone who's been involved in Bitcoin from early days, 80, 90% drawdowns, they've happened multiple times. So you do need to accept a large amount of risk and a large amount of volatility when investing in something that's only been around for maybe 10 to 12 years. It's early days for sure, and because of that, you're going to see price movements like this. It's certainly not for the faint of heart. But folks who've been holding for 10 years are certainly pleased with where they are today. And if you invested last year at the highs, you're obviously feeling a little hurt.
Yeah, I think that earlier you really nailed it when you talked about more thoughtful, thought-out regulation. The Biden administration on the crypto, for lack of a better term, that the number of countries are simply confused on what their stance is on crypto. What do you think the Biden administration wants to do? Clearly, they're urging Congress, do something and do it fast.
Yeah, I think the best they can do, and this isn't even a Biden administration, this would have been any administration, is figure out what this is and learn more about it. We're struggling right now to get tech CEOs to Capitol Hill to even understand how something like Facebook works or how Twitter works. So to think that the Biden administration or even the previous administration would have been the ones to crack the case of how blockchain technology and decentralized finance works, I think that's a bit of a stretch. Again, showing how early we are and how much further we have to go. We might need a little bit more fresh blood and fresher stance in terms of how these things work to really get the laws and regulation that we need in place to watch this propagate. We also need more use cases, things that relate to people or can be used by people in a more practical way. I just don't think crypto and DeFi or decentralized finance is at that moment, but it will get there.
It's interesting because we talk about this legislation, the need for it. I think back on when the first President Bush went to a supermarket and didn't understand what the scanner was. And we have these people, lawmakers, and for the life of me, these are not young people for the most part. Do you think they can wrap their heads around this and make the most responsible legislation that the United States really needs to move forward?
Yeah, I'm an optimistic kind of guy. I usually look for the best in people. While it's certainly possible. I do not think it's probable by a wide margin, unfortunately. Again, tech CEOs trying to just explain, how ad revenue models work for social media companies, and they don't get that.
Right.
And I know I'm painting with broad strokes here. There certainly are members of Congress and representatives who really do understand this and are pushing for the types of laws and regulation that I would think proponents of crypto want to see. But by and large, I just don't think there's enough enough cohesiveness here in government, enough knowledge base, and unfortunately youthfulness to really carry that out.
Now, let me ask you, because you talked about the regular financial analyst or investors who may come to you or to others. What do you tell people when they say, hey, I really like this idea of getting into crypto? What step A, step B, step C, what kind of things do you tell them to look for, and also the kind of pratfalls that are clearly out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an awesome question. The first thing is obviously getting knowledge. So, to obtain information before you would actually allocate your money and put risk on it. I think that's the first thing, is really understand a little bit more about the underpinning technology. The second thing I recommend is to, go buy yourself maybe $1 or $10 worth of Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency. Obviously, I'm not recommending everyone go out and buy crypto,
Right.
but what I'm suggesting here is get a feel for new technology. I think there's a lot of value in people experimenting and seeing what these new interfaces look like, what it's like to send a transaction or transact using the blockchain. It's very hard to get people to shift gears from how they've done something in the past to how things might be working in the future. I think those are really, really big steps. And lastly, for those who really are looking to make a commitment and put some capital or make an investment in cryptocurrency, we want to understand what that means to their overall financial picture. Look, I'm a financial planner at the end of the day. We want to know what any financial decision means to the goals that we have for ourselves. We want to still be able to get to retirement. We still want to be able to afford homes and start families. Putting all of your money in something that's too risky might not be the best or most sound way to do that. So those are the steps I would take, from just getting knowledge to figuring out what this looks and feels like with really a little
Right.
amount of money just to test drive it, and then how to critically think about allocating in the context of your financial goals.